Good morning. I'm happy to be with you today, even though I'm way out in Colorado, and to have the privilege of speaking to you about the gospel for today, which has to do with parables. In his book, Wishful Thinking, Frederick Buechner, who is a Methodist minister in Vermont, says this: "The parable is a small story with a large point. With parables and jokes, if you've got to have it explained, don't bother." Jesus was well known as a wisdom teacher. Most of his teaching is in the form of memorable short stories and provocative short stories, which are commonly called parables. These stories were regarded as the bedrock of Jesus' material as he preached throughout the countryside. The gospel reading for today states at the very get-go, "He put before them another parable." The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seeds in his field, but while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then they went away. The primary purpose of the parable was to invite hearers to a different way of seeing and understanding God and themselves. What is vitally important is a new way of seeing. So Jesus was, in his preaching, he did not do the conventional things that most rabbis did in terms of material. I think what's important for us is to realize that Jesus is talking about what he knows best and what he has experienced during his years of public ministry. So what was Jesus doing as a wisdom teacher? Marcus Borg says, "I see him as inviting his hearers to a new way of being in relationship to God, not dependent upon convention or on institutions." It reminds me in the 1960s when I was rector of St. Andrews and the new prayer books were being introduced, someone said to me as they came out of church, Jesus would turn over in his grave if he knew that we were abandoning the 1928 prayer book. To which I replied, "Did you forget the doctrine of the resurrection?" And she kind of got huffy and she walked off. But those incidents are good because we're constantly changing, as we know, even as I speak today. Look at the changes that have been made in the way in which the church is required to function today. I find it very interesting because most people that I meet are saying, what I really miss is the fellowship of the church. They don't mind being online. They don't mind not having a pew full of people in front of them. But it is that relationship in the church which is important to all of them. Jesus' concern for the individual is to get involved and produce fruit in spite of the weeds. And I think that that is exactly what it's all about. That's what you and I are here for. My job is no different, my vocation as a bishop, than your vocation as a Christian. We all have the same thing to do, which is to, as he says, to get involved and produce fruit in spite of the weeds. One thing that the parable of the weeds points out is that this world, our world, and this includes the church, is not a trustworthy place. Not at all. I think we've seen that in recent events, not only in relationship to the pandemic, but in relationship to religion and politics and all that that implies. Somebody said, are there weeds in the church? Well, that's a good question. There are some people who are naive enough to believe that everything in the church is holy, everything in the church is right, correct. But I can claim that having been your bishop for 20 years, I can assure you that at all levels of our beloved Episcopal Church, there are weeds both big and small. I remember going to a meeting of the Executive Council, and during the meeting, Bishop Browning came out. He was then the presiding bishop, and he said, the church has just been embezzled for $3.5 million. Well, I mean, everybody kind of looked at him and thought, what's going on? Well, I can tell you that our diocese was embezzled for a lot less, but it was a multi-$1,000 program. So you never know what's going to happen next. Some individuals, both those in the clerical community and in the lay community, are, as I say, more weedy than others. Even during these difficult times, when the church is locked up and people can't appear, the church is still with us. It's with us because the church is the people. So the buildings may be locked up, but the church is out in the community, very active. And I think that's something that we need to remember. Times will continue to change. And maybe we should have the parable of the pandemic. But at a time when people are struggling and emotionally upset, it's good news, I think, to realize that Jesus dealt with people as they were, not as he expected them to be, which often surprised his disciples and certainly led to his downfall at the end of his ministry when he was crucified. But that's the way I think that our church has to be. We have to be involved with the individual, no matter who he is, at all levels, or who she is. I think of the people that I've known in the Episcopal Church over the years, and especially when I was a ordained ministry. And the surprises that you get from your congregation are enormous jewels that are cast out. I could mention names and people, but I won't do that because I'm not there to defend myself. Anyway, parables allow us to see Jesus in a new dimension, to see his ministry in a different way, and to realize that what he is really concerned about is the person. The person. And that is what Jesus is concerned about with you and with me. Not so much what we do, but who we are. So this morning I feel very privileged to be a part of all of you, as I have been over the years, and to let you know that I treasure my time in Southeast Florida, and especially the people that I've met there. They've been a real part of my life, and we hope to return in the flesh, incarnate at some point. God bless you all, and may you have a blessed year. God bless your families. Take care of yourself and of others. Amen.